I'm now welcoming Toby van der Merwe. Toby is Business Development Manager at WeconnectU, van der Merwe #3. It's like there's a song. There's a song. There's going to be a song. I think we should get Kurt Darren into it to do van der Merwe #3 or something along those lines. And Marutza Botha, who is the Customer Success Manager at WeConnectU as well, managed a very, very significant portfolio in Cape Town and managed a team of 15 community managers. It's like herding sheep. It really is, I'm sure, or herding chickens, which is even harder. I'm going to leave the next 15, 20 minutes up to you guys to really take us through the idea of the community manager and how to get that community manager into the driving seat. I think it's a really important part of this conversation. Over to you guys.
Thank you, Bruce. Morning, everybody. It's really wonderful to be with you all today. And welcome, Marutza. Nice to share this session with you.
Thanks, Toby.
So I'm really excited about this session because I think it's going to cover very, very relevant topics. And as business owners, I think you're going to hear things today. And as a community manager, I hope there's a lot of you listening today. You're going to hear some things that I think is going to rattle your cage a little bit and challenge your paradigm that you currently have. But on the back of the previous session and a lot of the statements that I heard earlier, I want to ask by starting a question. Why the community manager? And why put this person back in the driver's seat? So Bruce, you spoke about it, Donnie spoke about it, Paul referred to it. But essentially the community manager is the face of the business and he's the main value communicator. Paul, you spoke about he's the person that builds the trust. That really resonated with me. Why? Because they're literally involved in all the main touch points of a community. And I'm referring to things like emails, phone calls, meetings. But as Donnie referred to earlier, there's really currently this gap between the value that is perceived and the value that is delivered. So what is the quickest way, most effective way to bridge this gap, this value gap that we're seeing? Well, we believe it's to focus on the one person that's in the best position to communicate value. And that is the community manager, or a lot of you know it as the portfolio manager. And then to equip that person with the understanding of their role and then the necessary tools and skills to consistently deliver and communicate that value. So I want to start by just zooming in a bit on this person's role. And Paul, you related to it, and Opa, you spoke about it as well. What does the community manager actually do every day? Well, essentially, this person is acting as an MD for a company. And in this situation, it's a company in the form of a body corporate. They oversee the budgets, they oversee the projects, they manage all meetings and interactions with staff and stakeholders. But the big difference is that person is not just managing one company, but on average, they're managing 20 to 30 companies. And they're essentially managing 2 sets of budget, admin, and reserve fund. They manage the HR, all the legal and compliance risk and the risk that's related to that, and then all the operations that's related. So here's the thing, though. Each company essentially has about 200 to 300 people, depending on what kind of community it is, and they all have expectations to live in a safe, secure, and well-managed living environment. And they've invested in this asset and in a promise of a certain lifestyle, and they have entrusted that lifestyle and that promise to the trustees to deliver on. Then there's all these stakeholders that the community manager has to liaise with to ensure that the trustees deliver on this promise. You'll see on the screen, this guy is surrounded, and it's not easy. So the community manager is then the main contact point for all instructions or queries, complaints, feedback, and status updates. And I very often, because I'm dealing with clients every day, I hear this phrase that the community manager is almost like the postbox. And contrary to popular belief, this person is only there to manage emails. That's not the case. The community manager actually a highly specialized, professional, and skilled role. Yet we're hearing today that this guy is, the value that he's bringing is getting lost in translation, and they're very often underappreciated. And it's mostly reflected in the owners and trustees thinking that this guy is only there to check and manage emails, to send out levy statements every month, and then to police the dreaded 3 Ps, people, parking, and pets. So, Marutza, I want to bring you in here at this point, and I want to ask you, in your experience managing this big team of people, what would you say is the main reason for this value gap?
Thanks, Toby. I think if we stay on the slide and we just think of a typical professional, they have a couple of stakeholders, but the community manager has a vast number of stakeholders to liaise with, much more than most professionals out there. So I remember seeing in my team that these community managers are really giving it their all, but they felt underappreciated and they got flack at meetings, and sometimes it was straight out abuse. And as a result, I saw high burnout rate, high staff turnover, and ultimately zero work-life balance. So it really concerned me, and I thought about it and I thought, why is it happening? And if we think about it, it is how professionals approach their work. Professionals rely on tools and they use specialized tools. And in most cases, this is what makes them a professional. If we think about an accountant could use Excel, but in order to be excellent and accurate and consistent at their job, they would rather use a specialized accounting software like Pastel, Xero, or Sage 1. So what tools have we given the portfolio manager or the community manager? As we can see on the slide, we've given him emails and we've given him his phone. So we are expecting our main value communicator, who's dealing with more stakeholders than most professionals, to do a world-class job. And the tools we've placed in his hand is a phone and an email. The tool should make your life easier. It should help you achieve your goals. But in the case of the community manager, the main tool is also part of their biggest challenge. I remember managing the response to emails was actually the most challenging aspect of my job. Most complaints that came over my desk was actually because of that. It was a lack of response to email or delayed response in email. That was the complaints that I received. But why was the email response slow? Because I know that the community managers were working long hours, and it wasn't because of a lack of effort. So the community manager actually receives between 150 and 200 emails a day. And if we take this a little bit further, and we know that they manage about 30 buildings, and every building, we know they have an AGM and about 5 trustee meetings a year. This brings us to 180 meetings annually. So if we just consider the work days, this means that the community manager is in meetings every second day. So I was also shocked when I saw that how long does these AGM meetings typically take? So research shows that the average AGM, and I'm not sure if our audience could guess it, but it takes 7 hours to plan, conduct, and conclude. So saying all of this, the workload and the pressure of the community manager is enormous. He's juggling so many balls, and he's expecting to keep all of these balls in the air. And I just see this picture in my brain where the stakeholders are just adding balls on a daily basis, and they're doing this mostly through emails. So let's have a look at the inbox and the nature of the inbox, because I think we've established that this is quite an important part of our discussion. So if we look at the inbox, due to the high number of emails, this is where the community manager spends most of his time. But the inbox is not great for prioritization of tasks, especially for high volumes. It's almost impossible to see without opening an email which one of your 150 emails should you do first. And the inbox also necessitates a reactive approach. You physically cannot answer an email before you receive it. You have to wait to receive the email, and then you can respond. And in 99% of the cases, community managers start their day in this reactive state by opening the inbox first. The last thing I want to chat about the inbox is that it causes what we call a silo effect. So this is where they don't have transparency on progress of the stakeholders' tasks that they delegated to them, because they're just being CC'd into emails to stay informed, but it just adds to the problem, the high volume of emails. So the silo effect is real. It manifests in many ways. I remember the defeated feeling when I would receive a complaint, because it would usually be in the form of an email, but it would not be one email. It would be this thread of 50 emails. And then I had to work my way through the email thread to find out what transpired and ultimately who was responsible. But it's just because that is the only tool that we had, we kept each other informed by just CCing the team members in, and it didn't really help with staying informed because it created chaos, 50, sometimes up to 100 emails in an email thread. Another way how the silo effect is detrimental to the community manager is, well, rather to the business, is when this community manager leaves the business to move on. And we mentioned that there's high staff turnover, so this happens quite often. Everything is in his inbox. He manages his whole world in the inbox, and then when he leaves, his successor is in a kind of a rocky place, because there's nothing for him to just read through and get a status update on progress. So we're actually setting up the successor for failure. And the other thing that I thought about was when the community manager goes to a meeting and it gets blindsided with questions about things that other people in his team were responsible for, but because they were also managing those items in their inbox, in their respective inboxes, the community manager just doesn't have line of sight of the progress of these items. And he just ends up at the meeting taking shots for the team. So our main value communicator is going to a meeting and he's taking shots. So Toby, to come back to your question, why is the value getting lost in translation? I think I would summarize and say definitely a lack of tools, and then a completely reactive approach because of the inbox. And this causes the feeling of not being in control, and then also this disjointedness that we just explained in the team. It just widens the value gap.
So what I'm hearing is that to put this person back in control, or let's call it the driver's seat, something needs to change. And what I'm hearing is that the change needs to be the way they approach the inbox. So to make this change from a more reactive to a proactive approach, they need to start focusing on something else, and most probably the things that they can control. Where do you think they should start?
Toby, I think you nailed it by saying the things they can control. So if we look at this slide, we know that there's some things in the industry that we can control. If we look at what's on the screen now, it's the annual audit, the AGM. There's a bunch of things that we know that will happen, and this is mostly legal requirements that are actually quite predictable, and there's high risk with these items. If you're not completing them on time, then they should be high priority items. And then reality is that there will always be uncontrollable items. The geysers will still burst, and unfortunately, to Bruce's dismay, the little dogs will still bark, and it will still be an uncontrollable item that the community manager will have to deal with. So what do we say? We're saying that if the community manager use the right tools and the right approach, he can go from being 20% proactive, which is where we think he is at the moment, purely because he's living in his inbox, to being 60% proactive, because he can control the controllables, and he will have transparency on progress of all his delegated tasks.
So Maritza, if you look at what you just said, the controllables are what is required. It's like non-negotiables. You know what it is. How do community managers currently measure and manage these things in their world? They say managing 20 to 30 communities.
Toby, I think they definitely trying to manage these controllable items. I've seen whiteboards against walls, tracking agendas for all the buildings, lots of Excel spreadsheets, and even Post-it notes. So obviously not the most efficient tools, but we have sheets for days. There's tracking of every single thing from post-meeting, pre-meeting, in-meeting, and I remember being confused with all the sheets back in my days in the chair. So, but what if the sheets essentially, they are more for management to keep control and manage and track, rather than a tool for the community manager to help the community manager. It's almost something the community manager goes on with his work, and then they must just update the tracking sheet for management to see where they are at. So what problem are they trying to solve by putting up a whiteboard and an Excel tracking sheet? I think it's this silo effect that we're talking about. It's they have the need and they can see how important it is to keep the team informed of progress of all the items that relates to a building. So this need to put the portfolio manager back in the driving seat is exactly why we will be focusing at WeConnectU on the community manager in 2023. We believe that the most impactful way to get the value gap closed or smaller is to empower the community manager and to become more proactive in his daily approach. If we can solve their problems and help them make their work life better, I think it's the quickest way and it will have a massive impact in the industry. So how do we put the community manager back in the driving seat is probably the question that is on everyone's mind at this point. Well, I think we need to create 3 specific wins. The first one is we need to control the controllable. Then secondly, I think we need to make meetings more professional. So because this is a huge touch point for the community manager. It is where the community manager is showcasing his value. So there's a lot of time, and this is a place where you should shine and not take shots on behalf of the team. And lastly, I think we need to break down the dreaded silo effect that we mentioned earlier and ensure that every team member is on the same page on progress, on action items and compliance items and everything that relates to a community. And then essentially what we're saying is we need to bring the whole team together for greater teamwork and transparency. We can focus on these 3 areas. I think we'll put the community manager in control, and this will put him in a much better position to communicate our value. So Toby, let's start with the first thing, which is control the controllable. How can WeConnectU empower the community manager to be more proactive when they walk into the office every day?
So Maritza, I think we've laid a foundation of just looking at how terrible the situation is currently and how under pressure and stressed and challenging this role is of community management. So WeConnectU have done a few things, or we try and do a few things that creates order and structure for specifically things like the controllable items. So I'm going to talk about a few tools that we've created that will, I think, give a lot of you sitting and listening a lot of hope. And for those of you who are not tech-enabled, I think you will see that there's a whole different world out there that can change the way you do things. So the first thing that we want to do is to create structure for all these internal stakeholders. And what we've got for that is something called a global compliance setup. We know what those controllable items are. The law requires them. And what we do with the global compliance setup is that we help you create and schedule and apply all your known compliance items, or that non-negotiable stuff, across your whole portfolio. And every single compliance item is then now scheduled across the whole portfolio in every community. So what the community manager simply has to do now is follow the prompts and make sure these priorities are attended to. I want to give you an example. We all know that an AGM for bodies corporate must be held within 4 months after the financial year end. And this is now scheduled across your whole portfolio in every single building through a global setup. Secondly, if you think about AGM, there's this thing of what we call the power of a checklist. A lot of you've got these checklists in Excel, whiteboards, and sticky notes. The reason is AGM is not standing in isolation. You've got to do a lot of things before, during, and afterwards that the law requires. So there's a lot of prep work before the time and after the time, not even to speak about what's happening in the meeting. So proactivity is absolutely crucial. And not just proactivity from the community manager, but also proactivity from the finance and ops teams. Everybody's involved. So just take an AGM. We all know that there's critical to-dos before the AGM, like getting your supporting docs ready, then sending out the agenda in time, and the prepping out and sending of minutes afterwards. Those are all non-negotiables. So the tool that we've created is, or this checklist items, has got 2 massive wins in the world of a community manager. Firstly, proactivity and proactive management is now absolutely possible because you walk in the office in the morning, use this tool, and it's prompting you what is the priority for the day. The second thing that these checklists immediately create is standardized workflow. So all community managers and all stakeholders that's working are doing it in the same way and following the same procedures. So that's really great for quality of service and then that continuity that we spoke about earlier. Then from a controlling the controllables point of view, the final tool that we've built or developed is, I think, is the most powerful one. All these compliance items or non-negotiable items immediately pull through to what we call a calendar sidebar, which is essentially a global daily action list categorized in a diary. So this calendar is visible to everybody that logs into the system. So the community manager can literally go and execute the tasks that's on his desk for the day and also keep track of tasks delegated to other people or other departments. And this calendar sidebar will essentially now become the first thing that the community manager goes to in the morning instead of going to his inbox. And it will simply guide them through all the high priority items and then get them on the front foot to get the things done. And once those are out of the way, they can literally shift their focus back to the uncontrollables items in the inbox and go and nail that as well. So it will be a major win in the drive to move from a reactive approach to a proactive approach.
Toby, that sounds great. If we can make that shift, it would be amazing because it would be a massive win. So the next area we want to empower the community manager is in meetings. So community meetings are the one place where the community manager should really shine. We said it. And we've also mentioned that it takes 7 hours and that the majority of the effort is actually not in the meeting. The meeting itself might be 2 hours if you're lucky. But the prep time before and then the actually managing it in an efficient way in the meeting and then the action items and minutes afterwards, that all takes a huge amount of effort. So tech can make a huge impact here because the community manager needs tools. But if we looked at meetings, we saw that COVID-19 was actually a blessing in disguise for community managers because it became the norm to go online. And tech was adopted by all parties. So, but this is changing recently. Most meetings that we've seen when we spoke to clients, people are moving towards hybrid meetings where you are in person or online or even just in person, depending on the community's preference. The community manager is really struggling to run a professional and fully compliant AGM in person or online, but it's mostly because of the tools, again, that he's using. So he's using Outlook before the time and then Zoom in the meeting and then Excel and Word afterwards. And there's not just this, there isn't one place that can manage all three phases. So Toby, can you shed some light for us on this?
So I think everything you said sounds like chaotic because what's happened in the last 2 years has made meetings really complicated. So we wanted to put something in place or develop something that will really assist the community manager before, during, and after the meeting, and any kind of meeting that they're running, not just AGMs, trustee meetings, SGMs, etc. And we call this tool Meeting Space. It's an end-to-end meeting management platform that is used alongside Zoom or Teams, whatever preference you have. And you can even use this tool if you've got an in-person meeting or hybrid. And we launched Meeting Space last year, but we recently launched an updated version of Meeting Space. So as I mentioned earlier, the effort and stress related to meetings are not just in a meeting, it's everything that happens before and after the meeting. And what we've done is ensure that the community manager will save time in preparation and then final execution and be literally more in control of meetings. So firstly, what we've done is we built functionalities to make meeting preparation easier. For instance, community managers can set up meetings with agenda templates, which is created on a global level, again, creating consistency for everybody that's working in the portfolio. Then secondly, it's very easy to make supporting docs available and easy to make it available to everybody that needs to see it by just uploading it. And lastly, it's very simple to invite all the owners directly from the Meeting Space platform. And what we've seen is that community managers can now literally shave hours of the prep time that they would normally need for meetings. The second thing that we've done is we want to help them take control during a meeting or running a meeting. Now, being on Zoom is easy, but running voting polls and managing quorum, managing proxies. That's not really so easy. And that's not going to help you at all if you're having a Zoom and online meeting and in-person meeting. So just think of all the manual work that's currently going in or taking place during a meeting. So we want to automate a lot of those meeting workflows. So what we've done is, for instance, you can create and run voting polls during a meeting. Participants can literally vote online with a device or in person if they're sitting in front of you. You can publish these voting results immediately because all the calculations is related to a voting poll is happening within meeting space, directly linked to the PQ of the participant that's voting. Proxies can be managed easily, and at the end of the day, all the attendance records are automatically captured and can be extracted into a PDF. So what's the win here? Well, immediately the community manager has tools to be more in control and just look more professional. And it's done because a lot of manual work is now automated. And what we find is that the meeting experience for the owner and the community manager is just so much better. And that's a good thing. Then lastly, the community manager can finish strong by completing all the post-meeting action items, minutes, things like that. So you'll capture minutes directly within the system. And then after you've done that, share it directly with the trustees for approval. A great feature, which is something that a lot of the time happens, is that there's action items that needs to be delegated. But because there's so much happening, you forget to do it. So all action items are now immediately captured within the system. You click a button, a job is created, and you can sign that action item directly to a person, yourself or somebody else in your team. And because this job is now in the system, you can actually track, manage, and complete it on time. So post-meeting deadlines is now easier to reach for you. And we want to give you confidence, more control, and ultimately a more professional edge every time you walk into a meeting. I believe, and we believe, meeting space is game changer.
I've just worked out, Twibi, why Body Corporate Meetings go on for 7 hours. You guys have got so much valuable content to share, and I'd like you just to wrap it up, please. Otherwise, we're going to be here till 4 o'clock this afternoon. And as much as everybody would love to spend quality time with you, we just need to tighten it up just a little bit if we can.
Thank you, Bruce. Maritza.
All right, Toby, let's jump straight into the last one on Bruce's request. The last point we said, how do we empower the community manager to bring the team back together? So I'm going to give straight over to you, Toby.
Okay, so basically what we want to do here is bring the team back together. And how we do this is by creating what we call dashboards. So global dashboards are available for all team members, business owners, ops, finance, even attorneys and auditors that use the system. They all log in, work in the same place, and you can literally track business KPIs and community KPIs. So it really becomes a place where everybody can work in one place. If you look at this little circle at the top right, that's what we call a compliance tracker. So a community manager can literally click on the red section. It opens up a screen. They can now go and check all the compliance items that's red, which means it's not compliant. Fix it, execute it, and it becomes green. And all of a sudden, you've got a tool that's measuring wins here. And it feels like the community manager is actually going forward. So it gives a sense of accomplishment, frees up headspace to go and sort out the uncontrollable aspects that also needs attention. All I can say, guys, you can literally chuck away all those Excel spreadsheets that you're currently using. You don't need it any longer. So I want to land it, and I want to say that we really believe that if we can equip the community manager to nail these 3 areas, it will have an immediate impact in the way they deliver and communicate value. And as Johan mentioned earlier, we're on a mission to create valued and more valuable community managers. And we've already seen a lot of businesses that's made this jump or the decision to go the high road. And it's because they've made a paradigm shift to be more valuable and to deliver more value. And I know there's a lot of you sitting here thinking, guys, I'm at the fork and I need to go somewhere. We want to help you get on the high road. But it's going to require intervention, and it's going to require a change in the way we do things. And we want to see that happen. We want to help you do that. So to make the biggest impact in a short time, we're going to be meeting with as many community managers as we can during the course of this year, and we're going to do it via physical events where we're going to go across the country, come to your town, and literally engage with you on this topic and unpack the tools and look at how we're going to approach this thing to close the value gap. And all the event dates, all these things we'll be communicating via our channel. So keep a lookout for that. And we'll also be casting vision of what else has been rolled out in the community management world during the course of the year. Thank you, Maritza. Thank you, Bruce. Sorry for going over time.
Guys are so good. You guys are so good and so valuable. You added value. So we'll excuse you. Toby, Maritza, thank you very, very much indeed.